Alright, so I'm not gonna lie, I just shot the video. The sun was by the window, but by the time I was finished, it was completely dark, so I had to shoot it again. So this is take two, just being honest, so let's go. So I'm here to talk to you about The Creator by Gareth Edwards. So The Creator is Gareth Edwards' long-awaited return behind the camera after making two high-budget blockbusters that had an author feel to them, which is 2014 Godzilla and Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which I feel are arguably the best. The first one, the best MonsterVerse in the franchise, and the second one, the best Star Wars movie from the Disney era. That's just my opinion. So I was really looking forward to see what he was going to do with The Creator when it was announced that he was working on a project that he's been working on for years. His new film, The Creator, it's a story of a former soldier played by John David Washington. He has to find a secret weapon because the world is now dominated by artificial intelligence after a war between the robots and the human. So he has to find that secret weapon. If you've seen the trailers, you kind of see a little bit. There's a little girl that he has to protect, and it's kind of like the premise of the whole movie. I'm not gonna say too much about it. What I can say though is I absolutely loved this movie. The big story behind this film is that Gareth Edwards was able to create this high-concept sci-fi epic for $80 million, and it looks like it could have been made for $300 million. And let me tell you right away, this movie looks fantastic. So the visionary Gareth Edwards is back, and he went to work with The Creator, one of the most visually stimulating experience of the year, with impeccable sound design and world building, and a strong message on artificial intelligence and humanity. Honestly, I was really blown away by the visual and the sound design. A real treat for sci-fi lovers. Go see this on the biggest screen possible. So Gareth Edwards continues his trend of crafting grounded sci-fi drama with also impressive and highly creative state-of-the-art special effects. It's really impressive to see how he takes those beautiful concept art and bring them to life. It feels like Edwards draw inspiration from Tales from the Loop from the artist Simon Stalenhag. Sorry if I mispronounced his name, but his art book is fantastic. It also created an Amazon series, but when I was looking at The Creator in the first images, it reminded me of his art style, but also his attention to detail and his way to incorporate science fiction within a lived-in world, and you can see some of his influence in the visuals of The Creator. And he's also able to create a sound that is very unique to this film, whether we're talking about the music selection, the score by Hans Zimmer, or also the sound design from the action, the spaceships and everything. Everything in this movie felt very much alive and lived in, which was fantastic to see and to witness on a big screen. Every gunshot, every explosion, every punch is being felt because Gareth Edwards really know how to balance the sound, the visual, and the editing, creating one of the most exciting action sequences we've seen on screen this year. So it's an action-packed thrill ride to all those meticulously crafted sci-fi canvas, just gorgeous to look at, and it's truly elevated by the fact that it's shot in more than 80 locations around the world. The natural environment really complemented by all the VFX wizard. Everything they were able to pull off in this movie is absolutely cool, and it feels very much organic, the way it's shot in location, and the way all the backgrounds and all the sci-fi aspects are integrated into the real environment. And it's very obvious that Gareth Edwards has like a sixth sense for visual spectacle and a clear flair for directing action, which is in clear showcase in this gorgeously executed piece of action movie. It really helps that the movie is shot in 2.76 by 1 ultra-wide aspect ratio. It really creates those beautiful, gorgeous, almost paintings, and makes us appreciate the beauty of the world that they live in. Once again, the music selection in this movie is absolutely on point, and it creates some true movie magic moments, some moments that I'm gonna be looking forward to watch on loop. They're so great. For the first half of the movie, I almost forgot that Hans Zimmer was scoring it, because the score really relies on those needle drops and those music that they're using. They're a bit of a mix of oldies and modern music, but I didn't feel like it was overwhelming and burying Hans Zimmer's score. I just feel like what happens though is in the second half, this is where Hans Zimmer's score really soars and takes over the screen as the final acts and the climax approach, and that was a perfect balance overall. I didn't have any complaints about that. If you were expecting the best Hans Zimmer score ever, it might not be the case, but I feel like he really did his job, and it really shows in the second half of that movie. Overall, I just love the sound of this film, whether it's the explosive and crisp sound design or just the music selection. Once again, that range from oldies and modern music, or just Hans Zimmer's orchestral genius. It looks and it sounds so cool. So story-wise, it might not be able to match the ambition and the scope and the technical scope behind the camera, but I was honestly very much engaged throughout the whole story. It's emotional. There's a good balance between the drama and also some surprising comedic moments. It also comes from the fact that there's a very good chemistry and dynamic between John David Washington and Alfie. Alfie is played by Madeleine Yuna, which is a revelation. She's gonna get some phone calls after this movie because she was really good. Alfie's really at the heart of this movie, and without her, I mean, I feel like it would be a case of style over substance. So by the end of it also carries an emotional punch. It's not just people punching each other and shooting at each other. There's also a message on humanity versus artificial intelligence, but it's not just a case of, AI is bad, we need to exterminate it. They're able to show, both point of views. They're also able to inject some personality into the AI, and the characters are overall very much interesting. So it's not a cerebral, mind-bending sci-fi action. I would describe it more as as an emotional sci-fi drama, if I would say so. And there's a lot of action going on in the final act, which might undermine a little bit of the themes and the message that Gareth Edwards is trying to show. But for me, it didn't matter because the action was so amazing to look at. Gareth Edwards has always been able to pull out those great action set pieces, but also create something interesting around it. And that was the case once again with the creator. Even though the story might be dragging in parts and that might not be the best aspect of the movie, I didn't feel like it was dragging it, and I didn't feel like it was a case of style over substance. I had some fear before when I was seeing the trailers. I was worried it would be a case like of Elysium, where it's style over substance and eye concept but story too thin. That was not the case with the creator. They were able to pull out an emotional story while to complement all the visual spectacle that is basically perfect to witness. It's just sometimes you need more than cool visual and cool music, and that they were able to pull off in the creator. Gareth Edwards is honestly insane for making this guerrilla filmmaking technique and just hustling and gaslighting the producer into making this movie. Because one story that I really loved is that when he pitched that movie, he went to the producers and he asked them if he could go location scouting. So instead of going location scouted, he actually brought his cameras and he started shooting some actual scenes from the movie. So he went to ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, and he said, could you put some special effects over that, even though there were no green mark or anything like that. So they said, we'll see what we can do. They come up with something really cool. He showed a 10-minute reel to the producer and said, there you go. And they were like, how did you do that? That was a really cool tidbit behind the scene of the movie, but just goes to show how he's talented, he's really brilliant, he has a vision, and his vision, he was able to put it on the big screen for an amount of money that is ridiculous. So Hollywood, take some notes from this Gareth Edwards guy. I think he's onto something. That's my takeaway from this movie. Also the fact that it was really cool. So if I have to give it a score, I would give it 8.5 out of 10. So not perfect, but that's just on my first watch. Maybe I'll love watch it again just because of the music and some moments that are playing out that I would just love to play on loop. So maybe that will improve in the future, but just from my first experience, I would say it's an 8.5 out of 10. Can't wait to see it again. So that was my review for the creator.
The Creator, only in cinemas.